Hi, my name is Julie and I'm here today to talk to you about floating shelf organization, specifically in the kitchen. So this video isn't intended to help you make your floating shelves look perfectly like Instagram worthy. The idea is to help them be organized and maybe make them slightly Instagram worthy, but also make them very practical. So I know floating shelves tend to be basically, people have mixed opinions about them. You either like them or you don't. And it's totally fine if you don't like them, or if you do, that's awesome. Hopefully this video can help give you some ideas as to how you might want to organize your shelves to help them be, again, both practical and staying organized and looking nice. So let me preface this video also with the fact that, as you can see, the kitchen is not done yet. We are in the process of updating it. We have the cabinets painted. We do want to put up upper cabinets, so I'll explain that in a second. But the counters are clearly not done. We are not keeping this yellow counter. It's actually apparently called Harvest Gold, but it is definitely not my favorite color, so we're not keeping that. And then the other thing is the floating shelves for us are just temporary. So please know that. It's not that I don't like them, but I do like that cabinets can sometimes hold a bit more. So we do like the floating shelves for the time being. I find them to be very practical, but I do ultimately want cabinets. And part of that is because we have some space over here that you actually can't see right now that cabinet used to hang there. So we actually lost quite a bit of space by removing our cabinets. So we did that. Long story short, there was some bulkheads, I guess is what they're called, sometimes called soffits, that were above our cabinets, and they made our kitchen look pretty small. So we actually decided to take those out. And then that involved, unfortunately, a lot of rewiring and a pretty big kitchen project, which involved taking all of the drywall off the walls and then having to re-put it up. So as you can see, also the window behind me eventually will need to be replaced. It does not have a frame around it. So again, the kitchen's just kind of a mess right now. But ultimately, anyway, back to the point, the floating shelves are something that can be very practical. So again, part of why we put them up is we had like them down to redo the walls and stuff, but we had a big cabinet in our dining room which held all of our dishes. So for me, it was actually very overwhelming because I was really busy at the time and will be very soon too. And taking the dishes out of the dishwasher, which is actually right over here, and carrying them all the way across the dining room to this huge cabinet was just not convenient for me. So we had this semester coming up. So I teach at a university, and so does my husband. So we knew that we were going to be very busy very soon. So instead of just having to keep carrying the dishes to the other cabinet, we decided to put up floating shelves until we can get our old cabinets back up. So ultimately, the floating shelves were a really good temporary alternative for us. But anyway, so let's get into some of these kitchen organization or floating shelf organization tips. As you're thinking about floating shelf organization, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. So some of them involve the size of your family and the size of the rest of your kitchen and the rest of your house. It's just right now, it's just me and my husband. So we have basically what we need for dishes out on the shelves and what we use for pans on a regular basis. We do store a lot of things that we use frequently in our lower cabinets. And then we also have a very, very small closet on the side that we do store more like pantry type items. But that side closet doesn't quite have enough space for everything we need. So as you'll see in just a minute, we actually do have some food storage on our floating shelves. So the number one biggest, most important tip I have for you is uniformity. So you can see kind of on the shelf behind me, which I'll show you some close-ups of, there is a bit of uniformity with the things we have on the shelf. So there are glasses on the shelf, there are cups, and we keep everything together. So we have plates and bowls on one side, we have cups on the top shelf, and that's primarily what we've got there. And we do have a couple of decorations. So as you can see, there's a plant and a little sign as well. And then I even kind of use this mug up here for decoration, this little happy cat lady. This was a Christmas present that I just got, and I think it's really cute, and I'm a cat person, as you can probably guess. So I just put that up there so that you can see it and just to help add some variety to the shelf. Another thing with uniformity is when you are looking at your glasses, specifically your mugs, one thing that's going to really help is pointing all of your mug handles in the same direction. If you look at a shelf and it kind of can look chaotic if the mug handles are just pointed in every direction because you just kind of threw them up there. So the biggest tip I have for you is just pointing them in the same direction. Even if the mugs aren't all the same, as you can see with one of our smaller shelves here, we don't have uniformity there in terms of what the mugs look like, but the handles are all pointed in the same direction, which makes them look a bit less chaotic. So that is something that I find really, really helpful when it comes to organizing my shelves. The next thing is if you are doing any food storage on your shelves, and again, this is probably the number 2 most important thing, but also like goes along with uniformity, putting your food that you have on shelves in jars that look the same is going to help the visual appeal of that shelf. So the storage jars that you see on this shelf are actually a bit of a DIY project that I took on myself. You could use mason jars to store the food or any other jar you can find or buy that is uniform and all looks the same. You can just get several of those, but these are what I chose. And again, because it was DIY, I didn't actually have to pay anything extra for these. So as I mentioned before, my husband and I both teach, and during the semester, we tend to be very busy. So on those days that we don't really have time to make dinner, we often end up eating pasta, and just to make it easy, it's usually just noodles and pasta sauce. So these are actually the jars that I use. So as you can see, that I store food in, whether that's pasta or beans or rice or quinoa. Even coffee I put in there. These are all jars from these pasta sauce. Before I get too far into this, let me preface this. This video is not sponsored in any way. So this product was not sent for me to try. I'm not being paid for this. It's just something that my husband and I actually like and use regularly. So again, just really good pasta sauce, and they're really great jars. They're also really easy to DIY into your own food containers. So all you need to do is put the jar in the dishwasher once it's empty and let it run a normal cycle. And then once it's done, you can take it out and just peel the label off. There is a sticky layer behind the label, but that will typically peel off pretty easily as long as it's wet. So if you do leave it in the dishwasher too long and let it dry, you can either throw it in another dishwasher cycle or just make sure you get it really wet, and then it will peel right off. It's also nice because it doesn't leave a super sticky layer like some jars do that you have to use like Goo Gone or something to get it off. It's just really easy. The other thing is the label has like a plastic like glossy cover on it, so it doesn't shred in your dishwasher and like get caught in the filter and stuff. So that's another thing you don't have to worry about. These little jars are another one that I found that I really like and may start putting some stuff in. These are smaller than the pasta sauce ones, as you can see. These ones were actually for salsa. So I have a few of these. My husband's been really into salsa lately, so I've been saving the jars, mostly because they have a nice plain black lid. Some of them will actually have like the brand name of the lid on it. So I try to avoid those. So basically any food thing that you use often that has a nice plain container can make a really good food storage jar. Another thing I want to mention is I know that not everything on my shelves looks pretty. We've got some pots and pans on here and a measuring cup, and they're not always the most flattering to look at, but it is really nice because it's just very accessible. So again, for this, I was primarily going, not for this video, but this is like how I have my shelves organized pretty much all the time. But this is done for practicality purposes. So it does look nice, it looks organized, but it's also practical. Thank you again so much for watching this video. I hope you found it to be helpful. So again, these tips are just finding uniformity, whether that is consistent storage jar containers for food storage or pointing your cup handles in the same directions or the same direction. And then also you can throw up a plant on there or some kind of decoration. We actually, in front of our little sign on the shelf, we actually have some bowls behind that. So it does hide those, not because they look bad, but just because we need the extra space. And then again, not everything's always going to be Instagram or Pinterest perfect, but it can still look really nice and work really well for you. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.